We'll call the meeting to order. If you'll please stand for a moment of silent prayer followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Our first and only item, public hearing on that Apopka Road Small Area Study Workshop. Take it away.
Good evening. Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, Planning Commission. The presentation before you was prepared by Little John, the consultant on the Apopka Road Small Area Plan. They presented this slide presentation to City Council a few weeks ago, and they have conducted a community meeting, and the second community meeting was conducted by the planning staff. I'm going to start moving fairly quickly because, again, I didn't prepare this presentation. It's a very good presentation, but Little John has over 80 slides, so I will have blisters on my fingers, hopefully based on the speed that I will be going through. The agenda is address the purpose of the Apopka Road Small Area Study, an overview of the area, address the public stakeholder participation, then go through the recommendations on the small area study. The study covers an area of 4.4 square miles, and it was funded by 5 key stakeholders who I'll bring up during the meeting. Those key stakeholders are Florida Hospital Adventist Health Systems, the MMI Development. Representative for MMI is actually here in the audience. Unicor, which owns property at the front of Emerson Park, Murray Carter Realty, and SNB Engineering. The study funding that they provided was about $92,000, and all of the funding was from those 5 entities, other than for staff time and photocopy costs on the part of the city. The focus of the study area is around the 414, 451, 429 corridors, as well as the Apopka Road area. The key generator that initiated this study was the plans for the new Florida hospital site. When I say new, it's really not a new hospital. Apopka already has a hospital. This is a replacement hospital. It's going to be a modernized hospital that it will be designed with the ability to grow with the community. The purpose of this study is to update the planning. The purpose of this meeting is to update the planning commissioners on the progress of the study and to give you information on where we hope to proceed from this point forward. In terms of the area overview, small area studies at the south side of the city, north of Binion Road, for the most part, south of Boy Scout Road. To the west is the Waterman District property that is known as the Lake Apopka Restoration Area. Then to the east is the southeast is the Orange County Water Reclamation Facility. The area comprises about 4.4 square miles. Most of the land area, 89%, is in the city of Apopka. To give you an idea of the size of this area, the 4.4 square miles, if we look at the key area, what you're going to see as the New Market area, right in this area here, that would be equal to the size of Baldwin Park. If you take out Lake Baldwin, Baldwin Park is approximately 1.4 square miles. So you can see the relative size of this area in relationship to Baldwin Park. There's a joint planning agreement between the city and county. It really doesn't have much bearing on the small area study and the growth and development within it because, for the most part, the land use density and intensity is already established through our existing zoning and other studies that have been conducted for this area. The purpose of small area study is to address the hospital impact and the type of land uses that are going to be compatible with it, as well as the interest to develop in surrounding properties, and I'll discuss that in a little more detail as we proceed through the hearing. But these are examples of some of the planning that has occurred in the past years of the study that was done back in 1999, 2000. You can see most of the land uses are mixed use or commercial. And here is what's referred to as the West Side study. And it shows, again, in the purple, we have industrial land uses, red are commercial, brown are townhomes. This hash mark here is the new alignment of 451. The old alignment was removed, so this is the new alignment currently. This piece right here is owned by the Florida Hospital, the dark orange area. Hospital also owns this hash mark area and other areas that are shaded in the brown, to give you perspective of the land that they own. Now, ownership within the small area study, the largest landowner is the Bronson property here, the north end, straddling Boy Scout Road and north of 414. The hospital owns this green site here. They are one of the key stakeholders. MMI Development, they own this piece right here. A preliminary development plan was just submitted for a 272-unit apartment complex with a commercial piece, and they just closed on this property. Bought it from Pulte Syntax right here. We'll talk about their property and their relationship and significance to the study area in a moment. Other key stakeholder is the Unicor. They own the commercial multifamily component of Emerson Park. Then there is the Murray Carter properties. They own both sides of Apopka Road. They also have a few smaller pieces scattered throughout the study area. That B&S Development, they own a very small piece. That's located right there. They own that piece.
Who owns that piece? Who did you say?
Called
Okay.
S&B Engineering. S&B Engineering. They contributed a small share, just to be fair to the other. For key stakeholders, they contributed $90,000. S&B contributed $2,000. Existing land use in the area, the green areas are agricultural. They range from orange groves to horticultural nurseries to silviculture, pine trees.
Is there any overlapping with the enterprise zone?
Yes, most of the area is within the enterprise zone.
Most of it, so like 51%?
The enterprise zone program at this point has an expiration date of December of 2015, unless the state legislature extends the program. But to explain the Florida enterprise in areas, it allows for the tax breaks for hiring employees or for the equipment, breaks on the sales tax for equipment that's used, as well as some other incentives to encourage employment-based development within the designated zone. The zone actually, southern end of it in this area, and extends northwestward up along US 441. Future land use, you see the predominant future land use designation is mixed use, which allows for a density of up to 15 dwelling units per acre and a floor ratio of 2, which is for Apopka fairly intense compared to other densities throughout the city. The high density residential is in this area, medium residential over here, and then we have residential development or agricultural areas to the south. Industrial land use, south of the hospital as well as here. And that's one of the purposes of the study with the proposed hospital, replacement hospital, is land use compatibility. If you are a patient in a room at a hospital, use this as one of the examples, you wouldn't want to look out your window and see a funeral home. So there are certain land uses that we're going to address in another phase of this project. We get down to the zoning and overlay districts to address land use compatibility. Here's the zoning. It reflects, for the most part, the comprehensive plan and future land use map amendment. Again, you see a lot of it's already designated for urban type development. So if there is anyone, and we haven't heard anyone yet come out and say, well, I don't want any development in my backyard, this area for the last 15 years has been planned for urban development. In the mixed-use employment center, the pictures here give you an idea of the character and type of development that would be anticipated. Again, this addresses, again, the intent of this area, or right now. Right now, the area is what's referred to as auto-centric. To get from one place to the other, it relies on the car. There's limited pedestrian mobility. The interchanges right now located here at the south end of Apopka Road. Only access and egress provided is at this interchange to the system. There is no other interchange that addresses this area that's planned for higher intensity and density development. Also part of transportation is there is no bus service to this area. Now, as I mentioned at the end of my development, they have had discussions with the Expressway Authority about constructing at Martin Road at 414 what's called a half diamond interchange, where there would be an eastbound entrance and a westbound exit. So at this point, the Expressway Authority has stated that they're acceptable to the interchange there. They will not pay for it. So the landowner or other developers would have to pay for that, and that they will not allow a toll at that facility. So any investors who pay for that interchange will not be able to use a toll to try and collect some of that cost.
Now, where's the hospital in that picture? Is that way over on the left? Okay.
It's right here.
All right.
It's part of the planning related to small area study. One concept has been to construct an east-west connector road known as the Harmon Extension that would connect to Martin. The interchange would here and would allow for this east-western connection. Okay. From a transportation perspective, one deficiency in this area is east-west roadways. One at this point would have to travel up to Apopka Road to the north and then come back down, or they would have to drive down Martin Road to Keene Road to get to east or west, or vice versa if someone's traveling to the east. Utilities. This is the utilities map.
Going on.
For the most part, we already have utilities out there. The city owns property across from the hospital at this location right here, where a new water treatment plant is located in a storage facility. So for the most part, capacity is not an issue. There's some lines that have to be upside and extended to cover the higher intensity and density of land uses, but that can occur with the development of the property, or is required as part of the development conditions. All of the area is in the city utilities except for these two areas of the small area study that are served by county utilities. This property right here is known as previously known as Thompson Hill Estates, which was an expired PUD that previously was approved by the city. Schools, that area is served by Apopka Elementary, Wheatley Elementary, and Spring Lake Elementary. Middle schools, Wolf Lake Middle School, Piedmont Lakes, and high school, Apopka, Wakai, and Ocoee. Ocoee only covers a small area down down by Binion, south of Binion Road. What the maps don't show you is that Ingram Road, just south of McCormick, down in this area, just south, right about right here, is a site that the Orange County Public Schools owns for a future K-8 facility or middle school and elementary school.
Is Emerson Park currently at Wolf Lake?
Yeah.
They go up there?
I'm like, how?
No.
Wolf Lake?
For elementary?
No,
No.
middle school.
Middle school.
Wolf,
Yes.
Emerson Park people go all the way to Wolf
Yeah,
Lake?
that's down there, I believe,
Wow.
yes.
Oh, I think the county will be redoing that.
Until the middle school is constructed down here.
Oh, that's,
Yeah, there's a long leg that follows Binion Road.
so there is a plan for another middle school at some point
Okay, so-
towards the south?
yeah.
Towards the south, yes, on
Okay.
Ingram Road in Ocoee.
Okay,
There is a site that the school board already owns.
okay.
I've heard that they're planning a K-8 facility. Difference between K-8 and a middle school and elementary school combination is the capacity of the school. Middle school, elementary school is you have a complete full capacity middle school and elementary school.
Yeah, so there'll be,
Basically, on two adjacent parcels where K-8 facility will share the same facilities and recreation.
that's smart.
Natural resources, soils are very suitable for development in this area. There aren't very many wetlands. There's typical Apopka. Most of the wetlands that you'll see on these maps are lakes. From a regional trail network standpoint, this map shows you the coast-to-coast trail, which has been in the news lately. It's a bicycle trail that will connect from St. Petersburg up to Cape Canaveral, and the star represents where the small area study is. So it's right next to that coast-to-coast trail, which, as you probably read in the papers, will have a strong economic tourism impact, ecotourism impact on Central Florida. So the trail system that you'll see here shortly is designed to connect that system. We also have the regional trail system, Loop Trail, the West Orange Trail, that also connect trail systems within the small area plan. Development highlights, you see some of the existing development out there now. We have the IFAS facility here, Emerson Park, which is a neo-traditional design that sets the tone for the area, Florida Hospital. This is the west side distribution center, and we have Magnolia Park, a residential community to the south, which is a mix of 70s to 85-foot wide lots. Emerson Park is 55 and 75-foot wide single-family homes and carrying townhomes. Here's the hospital now. You're going to hear their story next week. We'll have the first hearing, so it's an actuality with the replacement hospital. We have public hearings next week. This is a general concept plan. You'll see a little bit differences in the plans next week, but that's, for the most part, what it's going to look like. Okay, Emerson Park, IFAS hasn't indicated any long-term changes to the use of its property. As we move forward, you'll see we designated it as a research, technology, and education center. Magnolia Park, Magnolia Park Estates, and here's the Northwest Distribution Center. And now we discuss the public stakeholder participation. There was the key stakeholders met on more than one occasion. We sat down to discuss their development interests and the city interests for the planning of this area. Then there was a community meeting held on July 1st. The hospital gave a presentation on its proposed plans. There was a presentation similar to this on information about the study area. The concept plans were prepared at that time. Then there was a breakout session, as you see in these tables here, where there were 5 or 6 tables set up, and there was a planner at each table, and maps were presented to them, and everyone went and drew what they thought their idea of the area should develop as. There were 85 to 90 participants, primarily property owners and residents of of Emerson Park. There are probably about 15 others that were either with the city or with the consultant team. So it was a large group. There was a second committee meeting that was held on September the 30th. The first one was July 1st. That one was conducted by staff because of our limited budget. We directed that committee meeting. It was an open house where people would walk in and look at the concept plans. The meeting was scheduled for 4:57 with a presentation by Florida Hospital at 6 on its building renderings. We started setting up at about 10 after 4. People were walking in the room at 4:15 when it was advertised for 4:30. There's that much interest and excitement about what's going to happen in this area. Any questions at this point? Now we're going to start getting into the concept plan and recommendations based on the community meetings, stakeholder input, staff input, and presentation to the city council. And your input, whatever comments you have, will be relayed back to Little John as they finalize their report. Current draft is about 150 pages long. The intent for the small area study is to look at the quality of life, and it's trying to create a unique character for this southern area of the city. One aspect that is going to have a focus is walkability. Another factor is branding. With the unique characteristics assigned to this area, what will it be known as? And so one focus was on creating a unique character and coming up with a new name for this area and high quality building and architectural design. This gives an idea of some of the building form that's already out there. Emerson Park sets the precedent, that neo-traditional walkable approach for a walkable community. This is an example of a more suburban type development where the buildings are spread out and it's a long distance where the buildings are clustered together. They can create a more walkable environment. So in this case, the building form is more compact. There's a mix of uses, but not only horizontally, but vertical, so that there might be office and residential on the upper floors, retail on the bottom floor. Then walkability is easy for residents to walk among those mix of uses.
When you talk about walkability in this area, are we going to limit, I don't know what better term to call it, pocket subdivisions where there's one way in, one way out? Are we trying to interlink the whole project together so you don't have to go out one street to get to another subdivision? Are they?
The answer to the question, yes, but also based on the input and direction that you give staff.
Oh, okay.
Address the Little John, if that's what you desire, that's what we will come up with. However, 4.4 square mile area, that's the size of the geographical. Remember, Baldwin Park's only.
Well, when we were considering the small lot overlay, and we went to some of those places that y'all recommended that we go to, that's what I got out of that. While they were individual neighborhoods, they weren't one way in, one way out, like a gated community, but not necessarily with a gate. I mean, they were all connected. And people were riding bicycles down the sidewalk, and they didn't have to get out on a main highway like 434 running through Castleberry to get to these shops and things from one side of the road to the other. When you build like you build, a good example is my subdivision and the two between me on Welch Road on Wekiva Glen. Then you got another subdivision and another subdivision. All three of those subdivisions have to come out Welch Road to get to Publix. When we tried, when they were being built, let's connect them so that at least there's a bicycle path to Publix, because there's people in my neighborhood that ride their bicycles or walk to Publix. They have to get out on Welch Road to do that. I would like to prevent that.
People probably live in the northern part of the subdivision, that if there's a bike path close to the north, it would be walkable. But if they have to go south and then west.
Well, of course, yeah.
And this is an example. Right now, Emerson Park is that neo-traditional design, and it's intended to be more walkable. This is the proposed site of the hospital, of course, a resident of Emerson Park that might work at the hospital, and businesses that are located next to it, to get to the hospital, they currently would have to walk down the Emerson, the main boulevard, and then north to the hospital. That is over 3,000, as opposed to this straight line here is 1,100 feet. So they're likely going to be more encouraged to walk if there's this type of pedestrian connection than the existing connection. So the intent of the walkability concept is to address issues like that in terms of planning. Branding. We'll see a little bit more of this later, but they did attempt to create a specific character for the area. There will be stanchions along the roadway on the lampposts where banners could be located like this. There will be signage based on the name that's given to the area. And there were a long list of about 50 names that were reviewed, and we invite other names, but we'll go over five names that came down to that cut list. But again, we want to brand this area with a particular name. Now we get into the framework of the planning area. General concept taken into consideration was that there are entrance points into the small area study. These were referred to as gateway areas. Then with IFAS, it sets a precedence for education, research, and technology. So we have areas where we thought there should be a focus on attracting businesses that are research, technology, and education, and it allows IFAS to continue with that type of use. The orange area, the hospital's right here to the north, is referred to as the New Market. This area is intended the highest walkability component within the small area, and there's designed to have a village center, and again to be very walkable. The yellow is traditional or neo-traditional single-family homes, lower intensity, perhaps townhomes. Within the New Market area, there will also be apartments as well as within the gateway area. The gateway area is more, it's less walkable than the New Market area. So your gas stations, your supermarkets, the intent would be to direct them to the gateway areas. This is the second of the two concept plans that was prepared. You see it up here, concept plan 2. The maps are basically the same. The only difference between the two maps that Little John prepared was Binion Road and this map. It allows Magnolia Park to be unified. Right now it's split by Binion Road, and the other map, the road continues through it. And the school location is different. There's a school site proposed here, and the other plan there was a school site proposed here. The intent of this concept plan is to say this is where the school should be, but it recognizes that in the planning for this area, new school sites need to be recognized. And there are other locations where school sites could be located. Up here by the Bronson property on Boy Scout Road, this for the most part retains the existing land use designation of mixed use. Why is that? We really don't know what the market's going to demand in the future. We see these areas as developing, particularly Bronson property, maybe 5 or 10 years out. However, because of the excitement of the hospital location and the media attention that this area has received thus far, I have probably had a dozen or more meetings with various property owners who brought in design firms, development firms, over what they can do with the project and proposed projects. I'm not going to get property owners' names, but this property here and this property here. I recently had meetings with design firms. It's located in unincorporated County, right here, by Cato Honian Homes, a residential community, 250 homes that's under construction. We have development plans here from MMI Development for the apartment complex and commercial. The owner at this corner came in with their design firm, a nationally renowned design firm, to talk about what they could do with their property at the corner of Apopka Road. And Keene, at the community meetings, I spoke with the property owner that owns the north half of Medicine Lake, the hospital here. Mike Vince's his lake out here called Medicine Lake. And first time I've ever been to a community or public hearing where the property owner came to me and said their property should be a park. I told her usually it's the property owner residents next to that property that say it should be a park, not the property owner. But she was explaining how there's a great view of the lake and how a component of it should be preserved for the view in terms of the design of the property. But, and there's others that have met with me over what they can do with.
And I guess that's where I was going a minute ago when I was talking about don't let those become pockets. And if individual developers are already coming, they're developing their own little acreage, and they're not taking into consideration the walkability, as you said, of the whole area. And that's what I'm talking about. If we start letting developers already come in with their plans, I'm assuming they're locked. It's a locked area where there's one way in or two ways in, and that's it. There's no interconnectability between their project and the one to the south or east or west or whatever. That's what we need to prevent.
And you had walkability, and earlier, and I had mentioned that study area is 4.4 square miles, and that we have a highway system through here.
Right.
And I believe the plans that are proposed, there are areas where there will be a high intensity placed on walkability. There are other areas where it's going to be more difficult to attain because the highways create a barrier. For example, I'll just say the MMI development, it's going to be difficult to create east-west connection because they have a highway, limited access highway on the north side.
Right.
But we're looking at having a bike trail along the side of the road that will connect to a bike trail that goes through the small area.
Yeah, like the Bronson property is on both sides of 429. Obviously, it's going to be difficult to get from one side to the other, but that's where you could put in a walking bridge or a tunnel under. And other cities already have those. Longwood has a tunnel right there at 434 and I-4 almost. Those kinds of things to connect them as far as walkability, yeah. But if we don't, if we let the developers develop their own little area and that's it, then all the traffic from that subdivision is going to dump out onto one road.
Yes.
And, if you go into downtown Apopka, downtown Orlando, and some of the older subdivisions, they were all city blocks. You go for a block and then you're connected to a road, and people can make their own cut-throughs and take shortcuts to get to places, and not everybody has to dump out onto 441, Welch Road, those kinds of things to get to places. They can take back roads to get there and eliminate some of our traffic congestion that we've got going on. And this is only going to increase that if we don't be careful.
That will reserve your comment for those development applications that try to beat any new land development codes we prepare, so you can push that. We've already encouraged.
And I will, but they're talking to you first, so you need to relay that information to them, that when you come to the Planning Commission and hopefully City Council, they're not going to let you do this. They're going to make you have walkability and other access to other subdivisions without having to go out on a major road. I mean, that's going to be up to you all to plant that seed before they get here and get too far along in their project development. Then they're not going to be very inclined to want to do it.
It's a good point, and the point's taken. Now, this next section gets into the various components. The research, technology, education area, the area around IFAS, and the area where near the Northwest Distribution Center, the research, technology, and education area. It centers around the location of ISIS. It's for increased employment opportunities. Offices like industrial companies will benefit from high visibility and accessibility to the highway. Buildings typically be larger, more of the larger research parks you see on the outskirts of highways in urban areas like Washington, D.C. or Boston. The distance from the residential development still close enough to retail and residents. so that people could walk to work or ride their bike. And but there's enough distance before the impacts of that higher density non-residential development with residential areas. The intent is that it would be not as urban as the Newmarket area, but still have strong urban characteristics. Building heights would typically be between 3 to 5 feet, maybe slightly higher. The gateway area is located at entrance points to the small area study. It's less walkable, but still designed with walkability, but less walkable than the Newmarket area. The gateway entrance into the area, so they intend to have gateway features at strategic locations so when people enter, they'll know that they're in Apopka Crossings or Wellness Park, or whatever name is assigned to it. This allows also for more bigger box development, so target where to locate in the area, that would be the IKEA furniture, or gas stations near the interchanges, then this would be the area that would be appropriate for it. Gas stations, for example, would be discouraged in what's known as the mixed-use area. Now, the Newmarket area is this area right here, north of Keene Road and straddling Apopka Road. In the north end, northwest end of the Newmarket area is Florida Hospital. They're developing on 33 acres, but they also have vacant land to the south and on the west side of Apopka Road. So they'll have future phases. What will be at the public hearing will only be phase 1. But in the Newmarket area, it will have the highest degree of pedestrian connection. The buildings will be closer together. It will be more of a downtown mixed-use type community. For downtown, I'm not referring to Orlando, but for a small city type of environment. And this is the mixed-use area, which for the most part follows already the land development code and allows for flexibility in terms of what might happen, what the market might dictate. The intent of the city's mixed use was to focus on encouraging employment-based type development with residents provided for the most part accommodate housing demanded by the employment uses. Neighborhood is the yellow areas, including Emerson Park. That's more the traditional single-family home, maybe townhome development on the outskirts, but still within walkable distance to the Newmarket area with the town center for the research, technology, education areas. Now we're down to the Newmarket area, the center of the small area study. Little John came up with 2 designs. You'll see on the left and the right. Again, these are concept plans. They have to move forward to implementation techniques before they become more of a practicality. But in this concept plan, it places office mixed-use development, with office as the primary use, maybe some retail or upper floor apartments. North of Medicine Lake, there is a town center at the corner of Keene and Apopka, which is retail and highly walkable. The brown areas are apartment complex or townhomes, and this area here is more of your traditional, here at the south end near the interchange, is more of your traditional type shopping center type development where Publix could locate, or gas stations. This is part of the gateway area that I discussed previously. On this other concept plan, what you see is a little difference in the road design. This concept, and we'll focus on it shortly, a little bit closer when we zoom in. There's roundabouts controlling the flow of traffic. Here there's more roadway connections to help control more intersections to control the traffic flow. The designs are very similar, but the town centers on a different side of the roadways, and there is more office focus by the hospital on concept plan A. Okay, here's more of a close-up of those two designs. In the hospital here, in your office development, or a mix of office and downtown development. Now we get into the urban form of the area, the type of buildings we would see in the Newmarket area, from townhomes to the multifamily. Little John came up with different road designs for that area. I won't get into detail of those, but they looked at different type of roadways that will serve the area to help create a more walkable community. Here you see the trees with the sidewalk. Some of the designs accommodate the bike trails.
Are we requiring utilities to be underground throughout this whole area?
Yes, electric utilities.
So there'll be no more butchering of trees by Duke Energy?
Correct.
I mean, we're putting canopies over street and they come along and rip them out.
And unless they're already there, if there's a redevelopment...
Can't we not make them,
if
we're having a whole area study, can we not force them to put those utilities underground that are already there? I mean, the power feeding, for example, the power feeding the Bronsons is on a power pole. Can we force them to put that underground now?
I think staff would have to look at a particular situation when development is proposed to see whether we can make them, if they're regional lines or if they're local lines.
Okay.
That will make a difference.
All right.
But I think the point is made that our goal is to get as many of the lines underground as possible.
Right.
This design here, you see that east-west connector road that would go over to Martin Road and the possible interchange at that location there that MMI Development proposes. A roundabout. This design has a roundabout here. You may revisit that.
Is it going to have stop signs?
Next week. Because that was an option that a lot of people at the community meeting liked.
People get lost in those things.
You say people didn't what? I didn't hear you.
Don't like
People get lost in those things. They're there for days.
I love them. Sorry. It keeps traffic moving. It's the only thing the British have done right.
The accident rate, fatality rate for traffic accidents is significantly low on roundabouts than it is for...
No, I was kidding. I do like them because...
The fatality rate is 80% less with a roundabout than it is with...
Well, because you have everybody from every direction has to slow down, but nobody has to stop. They can get in that thing and get out, and it's better than a four-way stop, better than a traffic light.
Mm-hmm. So that concept plan, you might... here goes the traffic. Look at that. No one's lost yet.
That yellow car almost got hit.
You got it? I'll be thinking when you get in there.
Probably my wife. The plan prepared by Little John includes a trail system.
Let me go back and ask you something about the roundabouts. You said the residents didn't like it.
No, they did.
Oh, they did. Oh, I thought you said they didn't. So we were going to change it. Okay.
They did like the roundabout.
Okay.
And that trail system also takes consideration connection to that coast-to-coast trail, which is just to the south of the small area study. And branding is important. There's a long list of names. I believe Wellness Park was one. Apopka Crossing. Those are the two most popular that people liked. One name was Care For. A number of people didn't care for that one.
Failed grocery chain.
It means crossroads. Obviously, crossings has to do with the highway connections and going off the road all mean the same place. So there's two versions of Apopka Crossroads, and one was East Shore Apopka, taking consideration Lake Apopka. When Little John, we discussed their contract and the scope of services, and we discussed branding. I said, you can come up any name you want to, except for North Ocoee or North Winter Garden.
You know, just throw out my 2 cents about those names. I do like the first two, and I like the entire thing to be called Apopka Crossing and the area around Florida Hospital,
Yes.
Wellness Park. So you can incorporate both of them in there.
wellness park at Apopka Crossing.
That's a good idea. That's the first I've heard that, but I think that has
Good
merit.
concept.
Merit. It would be wellness park at Apopka Crossing. And part of that banner branding system, they prepared just examples of logos that could be used, that could be placed on the stanchions throughout the community. And then branding identity, coming up with artistic type of designs to create a theme. And or placing the name of the area up on the highway bridges. And then the area should include specific features that are uniform, like benches and walking areas. One requirement placed on Florida Hospital as part of their certificate of need was they have to plan for bus service. So they include a transit stop on Apopka Road that has a shelter for future bus riders. Again, this just gets more into the theme of the area. Little John started coming up with and preparing design for different architectural themes. And there was some analysis on fiscal impact for the city to look at creating possibly special districts to help fund some of the unique characteristics that are associated with this community, from road improvements to bike trails to city services. And public hearings, the first public hearing is next week before Planning Commission for the hospital. From this point, with the comments I received from the Planning Commission, we'll give those to Little John. They'll wrap up the small areas study, submit the final document, and from there we'll set up the strategy for implementation, which likely will start at either the end of this year or early 2015. That concludes my presentation, all 80-plus slides.
Is this presentation out on the website or somewhere that we can have access to it before next week?
We're going to try after tonight to put it on the city website. The issue is whether it can accept the size of the document. And I can't even email this to anyone. It's so large, we have to put it up on an FTP site, which tomorrow we are doing so that key stakeholders can take the main study, which is 150 pages, the main study, which we're going to start disseminating for the key stakeholders to make comment, and then take that in consideration and start to implement. This slide presentation, if you would like copies, we'll either have to put it on a CD or give you an FTP site where you can pick it up.
I'll bring you a CD.
Or you'll have capability of a thumb drive. We could bring in a thumb drive and you could put it on it. You don't?
Very few employees have CD drives or UPS phones.
Okay.
Is the town center going to be accessible to golf carts, or is that too much like the village?
Will they be accessible to golf carts?
Yeah.
We hadn't planned for golf carts as an alternative form of transportation. That's something we'll have to evaluate further. I don't think it was the intent. We don't have any golf courses in that vicinity.
But you might. And even if you don't, that's a cleaner way, safer way, or easier way for residents to travel to, not to the gateways, but to the other ones.
Well, my response to that point is, with Florida Hospital, it's not required a quote. Staff asked, and they included in their plans, they have 2 electric charge stations in the parking lot with the ability to create more electric hookup stations. And in the initial round of review for the Martin Ridge project and MMI apartment complex on Martin Road, we discussed electric charging stations as well. They said their owner did not have issue with that because he drives a Tesla.
Have you been to the villages and seen the golf carts up there? Have you ever been there?
Not in years.
Oh.
Probably
You need
50.
to-
You need to go.
Yeah,
Those things are like Cadillacs. They look like
and
Cadillacs.
they're everywhere.
Yeah.
Horrendous.
You name a design and it's there. It's unbelievable.
Better be a bike.
And I mean, that's their transportation. And if you're looking for, especially Florida Hospital and the medical complex that'll ensue behind that, for people to get there without putting gas in a car, that would be a way to go. That's a thought. Any other comments, questions?
See, in the villages, they essentially have separate roadways
Yeah, they
for
do.
the golf carts.
Yeah.
Kind of like that one right there.
That's right.
But it can't go on the trail.
It's a good concept, and we just need to stay on top of it and make sure that what we envision right now is what actually occurs down the road, because we tend to stray. Any other comments?
Any other questions?
Any questions, comments, thoughts, suggestions? Now's the time to throw them out there.
No, not till I look.
All right, appreciate it, David. Good job. Little John, good job.